Hello, everyone. Welcome to Let's Go Up Podcast Edition,
where we explore the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven.
We're your hosts. I'm Dean.
And I'm Karitas.
Karitas.
Yeah, had to say it a little more artistically today.
Yes, because today we're talking about the artistic heart of God.
Artistic heart of God.
Yeah. We'll leave them hanging, dangling for a while.
Mm-hmm. You guys got to listen to some fun stuff first.
Yeah.
Such as
our website.
letsgoup.us, our trendy catchline, because we're in this together.
Yes, we are. Our website has all kinds of interesting things and links to links.
Links to links, which link you to podcast episodes, video or audio, and some ascending tracks.
And some blogs.
And our bio, a little more in-depth maybe than what Llama 3 gave us.
You know, funny, you mentioned Llama 3. I tried to look myself up on Llama 3 this week, and it knew nothing about me.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I forgot everything because Adeline was asking me, my wife.
Yeah.
I said, oh, hey, Karitas typed my name in, so I put mine in it. Nothing. I had to ask it, is there any more?
Oh, and did it find any more?
Hardly. Llama was at a loss for words.
Llama's on summer holidays.
That could very well be. We are in the middle of summer.
Yeah, it's like, I don't have time for this. School's out for summer. Okay, guys, stop asking me all these questions.
Yeah.
Come to me in September.
That's when people start learning again.
Yeah, right now, brain is off, right?
Right.
Except the stores are now selling school supplies, right? I remember that as a kid, getting so angry when we go into a store in the middle of the summer and they had all their school supplies, signs. You walk in and it's just the posters and the advertising. It's like, no, let us have this time. It's only 2 months.
That's right.
Stop. A few weeks without having to think about you.
That's right. So I have a question, Karitas. What is your favorite season of the year?
Ooh, since we're talking about summer.
Let me guess.
Okay.
I don't have a favorite.
I actually don't particularly have a favorite of very many things.
No,
right?
you don't, because every time I ask you what your favorite color is or whatever, you don't have one.
I just love different things about the different things.
Okay.
So it kind of depends. But as far as seasons, I really do like them all. Nathan's more of a just summer guy. He could move somewhere like Arizona that has one season all year and just live there. I do love my seasons. I love the changes. I love the different aspects of them all. I've had snowflakes fall on my jacket where you can see the individual flakes and the spikes and the details and all the flakes. Winter's pretty glorious. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick fall. At least here on the West Coast, fall is pretty swell. Still got the summer heat most of the time. You still go swimming in lakes into October sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's transitioning, right? From lush green to
glorious colors.
Yeah. Sometimes those trees are almost fluorescent, vibrant. What about you?
I'm trying to think what would my favorite be. There's beauty in all of them as well. Did I just steal your answer?
You're pulling a Llama 3 and plagiarizing.
I'm not super fond of cold.
You've had the winter.
I've had a lot of it.
Yeah.
Spring is great, especially when those cherry trees start blossoming.
Oh, yes.
Love that.
Do you ever stand under them and shake the petals off? I did that once as a kid. Me and my friend saw this cherry tree full of billions of petals, but there was a car parked under the cherry tree, and we thought it would look amazing to cover this car in cherry petals. So we climbed the tree and we started shaking the branches until the entire car was covered in pink petals. The whole thing. It was magnificent. I think it had rained the night before, so it was a little moist, so they really stuck. Anyways, he came out and he was so angry. You know when someone responds in a way that you didn't even expect someone to respond in, so you don't even know how to respond back? You're just kind of stunned. That was kind of us, like, but it's beautiful. It's magnificent. We didn't understand how he didn't see the magnificence. I think we just climbed higher in the tree and tried to...
Was he able to wash them off at least?
I think you go for a drive and they blow off, I'm sure, but it was magnificent.
So then summer, I'm not a super fan of hot weather. So once again, I think I would say fall.
Oh, okay, yeah. We're in sync. We've got the frequency of fall.
Yeah. If you want to go on a vacation, I say fall is the time to go. Karitas, have you ever been to a professional garden?
Yes, I have been to a professional garden. And it was very beautiful. And they have a garden out here in Chilliwack, Minter Gardens. Okay. My mother-in-law is super into gardening. This is her jam, okay? She tried some other hobbies. Like they went traveling. And they were like, it's just not really our thing. I just want to garden. So she gardens on steroids, okay? They were away for a weekend visiting family. And Someone who works for this professional garden saw just a glimpse of their front yard and they're like, I wonder what the backyard looks like. And so this person knocked on the door and no one answered. So they actually snuck around their house and snuck into the backyard and were just blown away. And so they left a note on their door. I'm really sorry. I trespassed into your backyard and just took a little peek. I work at this garden place and we do garden tours throughout the area. And we were wondering if we could add you to one of our tour spots. Anyways, she got back from her visit and was very pleased. They are now on the official
Tour list of gardens.
gardens.
I was at a garden in Europe. It was just so well laid out and all the colors of all the flowers that they had planted. And I want to tell you about my experience in the Garden of Heaven.
Ooh.
One time I was sort of taken to a garden, more beautiful than anything I've ever seen.
I'm sitting right here.
Okay.
Rude.
More beautiful than any garden I've ever seen here on Earth, because the colors were different than any colors that I've seen here. There's additional colors there.
Okay, you know what? Remember last week we were talking about that artist prodigy, Akiane?
Yes.
She said the same thing when she was painting a garden. One of the things I remember her saying in an interview was there were colors that don't even exist here, so she couldn't make the painting
Right.
completely accurate.
That's the same thing that I experienced.
Wild.
Yeah. Colors that don't exist, because I think the light is so pure, right? So pure glory light is what lights it up. So there's a different spectrum. I was looking around and I was in awe of the beauty that I was seeing. I asked somebody who was there, what is this place? And they said, this is your garden. So this was my garden, evidently. So I've sort of seen my own garden. And then
You had a sneak peek.
I had a sneak peek
Like
of this.
that lady that snuck into my mother-in-law's yard.
Yeah, kind of like that. Right. So then I looked around and I'm like, wow, okay, so everything is tailor-made to the beauty that appeals to me. Then I looked down at the pathways and there was like writing in them. So they weren't just pathways that you walk on. Everywhere you looked, they were engraved. So here I am. I'm down on my knees looking at the engraving on these pathways, and they went for miles in every direction. And written in these pathways all over the place were descriptions of God's thoughts over me.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Outnumber the grains of the sand.
that's the first thing that came to mind. His thoughts over me. And they were everywhere. You couldn't go anywhere and look at the pathway without seeing a different thought. Like they weren't the same.
Wow, I didn't even know. That's shocking.
Shocking. The whole thing was shocking.
Wow.
God's thoughts over us really are more than the grains of the sand by the seashore, because they were endless. They were written with this fancy writing. all over the
Calligraphy
place.
almost.
Yeah.
Eh? Yeah.
And so there I was in this beautiful garden, and I wasn't even looking at the garden. I was just looking at the pathway. Down on my knees, actually looking at the pathway.
Dean, look up.
I know, that's what it was like.
You've got eternity to explore that garden.
It will take that long.
Yeah.
The first thing that God did in the beginning was, in the beginning, God created. So he is very creative. He made this beautiful world, and he made a garden, the first creative acts of God. Last week we were talking about wisdom and how wisdom was there in the beginning. I wanted to reread that today.
Okay.
Proverbs 8:22. The Lord formed me in the beginning, so it's talking about wisdom, before he created anything else. So the first thing that he did is he formed wisdom. He created wisdom, the spirit of wisdom. From ages past I am. I existed before the earth began. I lived before the oceans were created, before the springs bubbled forth their waters onto the earth, before the mountains and the hills were made. Yes, I was born before God made the earth and the fields and the first handfuls of soil. So the very first thing God did was created wisdom, and she was there with him
Yes.
for all this stuff.
She thoroughly enjoyed the process of creation.
Yes.
Who would have ever attributed wisdom with creativity? Culturally, we kind of separate the two, right? Creative, artistic side is kind of pushed aside often. Like if something's going to lose funding, it's often the arts first, right? You hear this from people who work in schools or other places. It's the arts that kind of get the short end of the stick. we put this value on knowledge and academics, but we see here that God has wisdom, arts, and
Yeah.
creativity together.
I think we tend to separate like left brain, right brain, right? So we separate our artistic side from our logical side. And I think as humans, we often equate wisdom or knowledge or understanding to that logical side and separate it from the artistic side. But that's really not even what wisdom is.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people have grown up feeling like they're dumb or they're not meeting the bar because of what society and culture says the bar is. But actually, their giftings in other areas, for example, creativity, are closer to what we're seeing here with God and his creative side and his designing everything from that place with wisdom together. I don't know. I just think there's a lot of people out there who just don't feel smart.
Right.
But that's only because we've been deceived into thinking smart means a specific thing.
Yeah, the heart of an artist is a unique and beautiful place. I've worked with so many artists over my lifetime. They carry the nature of God.
Yeah.
I mean, God does have this amazing logical, mathematical side to him, but even that is an artistic side.
Even that, he's creative and artistic with it, and the patterns. You see that in math and science and physics. When you take a step back, you see the artistry in it.
Even music. Music is this beautiful, emotional experience, but when you break music down, it's a set of frequencies, which are numbers, and it's broken down into a very numerical pattern system. It's one of the most logical numerical art forms that you'll find. It's difficult to separate music from numbers and math.
Well, they even have found, studying the brain, people who struggle with math, if they start learning music, the math part of their brain actually starts
Thriving.
There's this connection between understanding the music and it then flowing into the math.
Yeah. And when you understand music, you would understand how true it really is.
Yeah, it starts to almost connect the two parts of the brain instead of them being these separate things, right? But we see that even in the way we design our cities and these decisions we make as adults. We can separate them into what's logical. Okay, so we have this amount of people moving into the city. This is our growth. So this is the amount of homes we need to build. But it's not as simple as just the math. We're realizing now as cities are getting hotter and different things are happening around the world that designing them with more of an artistic, holistic view would have actually been healthier for the city. Keeping plants in cities, trees, so they could grow bigger and start thriving and creating shade. Now we have these insanely hot streets and they're trying to figure out how to cool them and now trying to plant trees, but it's hard to do it from the place of panic and you're already in trouble. Than doing it ahead of time and seeing the beauty in building with nature. We have this huge mountain, for example, beside our house. They've slowly been encroaching up onto it, building these big houses. I'd call them mansions. So instead of building with nature, what they're doing is just stripping all the trees off the mountain. So there's been a lot of problems with bears and wildlife now coming into the neighborhoods down below because they're just completely stripping it bare, building as many of these houses as they can on the top of this hill. It might make sense on paper, but in the long term, we've had floods in the valley the past few years below where we live. Trees on a mountain keep the moisture on the mountain when it rains. We get a lot of rain here, you know, the wet coast, west coast, a lot of rain. So you're stripping this natural barrier that prevents floods.
And soaks up the water.
The landscape's weaker, more prone to rock slides and destruction. We are very close to some major fault lines. We can have some pretty big earthquakes. So why not build it with the environment so that we're safer? Yeah. So anyways, you just see when we design a city or a town, when you look at it with a bigger lens and you look at it from how God created everything in a garden, and we're meant to live in a garden. How do we work with nature and with what he created and create from that instead of getting rid of that and then later panicking? Because there's all these benefits I was talking about. You don't realize, but as you honor the creation, later you start noticing, wow, we really benefit from all these trees. We really don't have a very uncomfortable environment here in the middle of the summer. It's quite cool and refreshing, but that isn't why you kept it. You kept it to honor the creation.
We need to work together with it. I think a big part is that when everything is driven by profit and economics, you try to crowd as much into a small space as you can. And then what suffers the consequences is the harmony with nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to approach neighborhood building from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Because when we strip the land of everything beautiful, put our stuff in place, and then try to replace that stuff again, it never grows back as beautiful and it never thrives like it did before, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I saw a YouTube video a few weeks ago. What would happen in a city if it wasn't maintained at all? This video was a shot of Paris, including the Eiffel Tower.
Okay.
And so it showed in 100 years, if nobody was living there, how nature would start taking over again.
Yeah.
And then in 200 years, what it would look like. 300 years, the Eiffel Tower was falling down and disintegrating. They paint it every year to keep it from rusting.
Right.
So it started disintegrating, and by 400 years, it was like fallen down. 500 years, it looked like nothing had ever been there.
Yeah.
The trees were all there again. Everything was growing over. The buildings had all collapsed. Nature completely took over again.
Yeah. We went traveling years ago to Thailand, and they have these old ruins. The cool thing about it is nature has completely taken over these ruins. So it's these massive temples and brick buildings, but they're trees. Their entire roots are wrapping around all the brick, and the trees are growing off of it. You see it's being absorbed into the earth.
Yeah.
Nature is the display.
Yeah.
You just see it. Like, it's a wonder.
God originally put a garden on the earth and put us here to tend an already beautiful earth with an even more beautified spot called a garden. God wanted to expand that garden. What would it look like if the entire earth was a garden? Because his original intent was for the earth to be filled with his glory, like the waters cover the sea. So the entire earth would be a garden spot.
Yeah.
The garden spot of the universe. That was his intention. So that original creativity of God.
You see it in the old Catholic artwork in Rome and such, the intricacy. There was this different mindset when it came to art and beauty than what we're used to growing up with and seeing culturally. The Sistine Chapel and all that such that was painted, they had this vision for art and creativity, and you see it in the way they built things and designed things. If they couldn't afford to have a dome roof, they would paint it so that from the inside, the church looked like it had a dome. Like, that takes some mad artistry.
Yeah. I've been in some of those buildings in Europe, and they are absolutely stunning.
And they're everywhere, right?
Yeah.
My mother-in-law, they went to Europe and they went on a Mediterranean cruise. So they hit a lot of European cities in a short amount of time. So they went into a lot of churches. It just overwhelmed her how many buildings and churches and museums there were that were so intricate. Everywhere you go, the intricacy was there. The value for that art. It was a dominating part of that culture.
Yes. It was valued a lot more than we value it now. It was done to lift the heart towards God and to lift your eyes up.
Okay, that explains why everything seems to be on the ceiling. Actually, they also do the sides.
It's wrapped around
Yeah.
the whole thing. And they would use stained glass, and they would use light, like natural light from the sun,
Yeah.
to light things up. So I'm going to read the rest of this wisdom verse here.
We're going back there.
We're going back.
We might take a little detour, but we always end up back to where we started.
So we were in Proverbs 8. So wisdom was there before God made everything. She was born before God made the earth and the fields and the first handfuls of soil. And then in verse 27, I was there when he established the heavens and formed the great springs in the depth of the oceans. I was there when he set the limits on the seas and gave them his instructions not to spread beyond their boundaries. I was there when he made the blueprint for the earth and the oceans. Now that would have been interesting. So evidently God has a big drafting table. And he created these blueprints. I've done some amount of building, and I've been in a lot of engineering offices where they have big draft tables. They make layer upon layer for a house or a building. The first layer is the foundation, and then all the other things that go into the house, everything has a layer. So when God's making blueprints of the earth, I wonder how many layers he had. Dimensions. Think infinity. I was the craftsman at his side. So that word craftsman is a very interesting word. I'm not even going to try to say this.
Do it, Dean. Take the risk.
Haramabi?
Haramabi. That sounds right.
Artist, craftsman.
Anyone out there thinking of baby names for a future child of yours, we've got some good ideas here. Haramabi.
The Hebrew word is actually Hakam,
Oh, so if you have
Hakam.
twins, you can have Haramabi and Hakam.
a word that is about wisdom found in God's purposes, the kind of wisdom that is the foundation of skill needed for incredible artistic work. The craftsman turns God's plan into tangible designs.
Ooh.
I was the craftsman at his side.
Partnering with divine creation.
I was his constant delight, rejoicing always in his presence, and how happy I was with what he created, his wide world and all his family of mankind.
Wow.
So here it depicts wisdom, born before anything was created, and then there during the creative process. The craftsman, the artist at God's side, there to take the blueprints and help bring them into reality. You could say that wisdom is a dimension shifter,
Oh.
because God is taking out of the unseen and he's building in the seen.
Mm-hmm.
Wisdom is helping him make the shift between the unseen and the seen, shifting the dimension.
What a job description. How do you put that on a resume?
That is a great job description, for sure. I love how it says that wisdom delighted in the family of mankind. And then the Passion Translation of that same verse. When he set in place the pillars of the earth and spoke the decrees of the seas, commanding the waves so that they wouldn't overstep their boundaries, I was there, close to the Creator's side as his master artist. Daily he was filled with delight in me as I playfully rejoiced before him. I laughed and played, so happy with what he had made, while finding my delight in the children of men. So wisdom is an artist. The artistic heart of God is displayed in wisdom. So when the Queen of Sheba came to visit Solomon, she was so overwhelmed, not so much by the wisdom of Solomon, but by the beauty of what she saw, that it says that she had no more breath left in her. Is that how it says it?
Just took her breath away.
Took her breath away.
Wow.
She had no more spirit in her, it says. Yeah. So overwhelmed at the way that the stairway went up from the palace to the temple and with the settings at his table. Evidently the artistry was, yeah. So God loves his art. He loves aesthetics. He created everything in beauty. And so we worship God in the beauty of holiness. And so holiness is also tied to the artistic nature of God. It's funny what we think holiness is. Cleaning ourselves up so that we don't sin. But in its simplest form, holiness is beauty. To the pure, all things are pure. God's nature is God is holy. We've been given that same nature. Be holy as he is holy. Wisdom is the spirit of holiness because wisdom is the artistic heart and spirit of God. I have no idea what I'm saying right now.
I love it. You know, okay, Hebrews 12 says, since we are receiving the rights to an unshakable kingdom, we should be extremely thankful and offer God the purest worship that delights his heart. And I think of that. Everything we offer him is the purest thing we can give him. It's beauty. Yeah. It's with wisdom and creativity and holiness. That's what we're giving him. Doing everything as if we're doing it for him. And we're made in his image. Okay, so what about this? I have a theory. 1 John 4 says, God is love. By living in God, love has been brought to its full expression in us. All that Jesus is now, so are we in this world.
Okay, I'm tracking.
So wouldn't that also mean God is creative? Therefore, by living in God, creativity has been brought to its full expression in us.
Okay.
Just changing the word love. Right? God is love. God is creative. By living in God, love or creativity has been brought to its full expression in us.
Creativity in everything that we do. Karitas, you were telling me just before podcast about Nathan. Can you tell that again?
He does this beautiful work, okay? Like, mwah, like you walk in and you see, it's just a construction site. He does industrial electrical type work. So big reels of stuff and, you know, working on hydroelectric dams and the Canada Line stations and all sorts of this like big, ugly looking stuff to the untrained eye. But at any time the GM or someone walks on the site, they see his work and they're like, wow. They see the beauty because he honors what he does. He does everything he can do to make something beautiful and the best that he can make it.
So even when he's pulling big, ugly, thick power wires through concrete,
yeah,
They're still lined up perfectly.
I will make this look beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And the people with the eye who have the eyes to see it. They see the beauty and they comment on it all the time. It's just the funniest thing to me because normal people wouldn't notice this, but they notice it. Who did this work? Wow. Like the amount of times that happens. And all it's doing is like honoring even what he does and doing it beautifully, doing it creatively. We'll be driving under an overpass or something and there's some pipe coming out that's got probably some wire in it and it's just off-centered slightly or just bent off. He notices it and it irks him. He's like, that's just lazy craftsmanship. It wouldn't have taken any more effort just to make it look beautiful and symmetrical. I'm like, what? I don't even see what you're looking at. What? There's a pipe somewhere? But he sees it every time. And when you have the eye, when you can see the beauty in the world, you see the value in the world being beautified by man. From a beautiful, glorious garden to the Sistine Chapel to this rigid pipe coming out of the side of an overpass.
You're right. If we carry the heart of our Creator, then everything that we do can be done in an artistic, beautiful way.
All that you do honoring him.
It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if you're laying pipe or if you're drawing a picture.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And it just displays his splendor. Like we're his sons and his daughters. And why not display the splendor of our Father in whatever we're doing?
Even if it's buried under something.
Even if there's only one person that would even know how to look at that. God's looking at it. He sees everything we do. There's so much that we think, well, nobody sees this. It doesn't matter. No one will ever notice this because it'll get buried underneath this or this. Say you're building an apartment or something. A lot of that stuff is buried.
Yeah.
So no one will really see, but the Father sees. And when we do it honorably and beautifully, he sees that.
Yeah.
And I think it delights his heart. What if we build things and design things in the world with the mindset of eternity, not our lifespan? Like, well, as long as this lasts, 40 more years, then. But what if we design things with that broader eternal perspective? What if this was here 1,000 years from now? Would I be proud that I built this?
Karitas, that was a mic drop. Kind of more like a splat.
A mic splat.
Yeah.
I like that. Let's just roll with that. It's more of an artistic word.
That's right, actually.
The mic splat.
So I have to say something here. Because we explore the mysteries.
You just wanted to do that.
I just wanted to say mystery once.
Had to do the button.
Because we explore the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven here, there's a now word going out that I've heard several times in the past month about building cities for the glory of God.
Oh.
Okay, because we are entering a new day and the kingdom of heaven is being released on the earth. And so the Father is speaking to certain ones of his sons and daughters about what he would like cities to look like and what he would like buildings to look like, what he would like communities to look like. And he's starting to download into people blueprints for cities.
Okay, that's awesome.
I've heard it 3 or 4 times in the last month, how God is downloading plans for new communities and new cities and new ways of doing things, new economical systems, new ways of doing life, where it integrates the beauty of the earth and symmetry and glory and life and immortality, and where everything is done from the foundation up with the thought of beauty and holiness in mind. No corners are cut, because in heaven, the foundations are made out of precious stones. Part of the reason why the city glows like it does up there and the scene is lit up by the glory of God is because underneath everything where you can't even see, the foundation stones are like polished gemstones.
Yeah.
So the entirety of heaven is radiating from subgrade right up to the highest peak with beauty and with glory and with light. And everything is forethought and put into place with eternity in mind.
Yes. And there's nothing that's less honorable.
That's right.
And lower and not important. It's all holy. It's
Yes.
all beauty. It's all art. It's all connected.
It's all one flow. Everything matters. Nothing is given a lesser attention just because it's not seen. So that is the value of God, and that's the heart of God.
And that's a word that's out there, getting louder.
It is getting louder. In the next couple of decades, we're going to see communities and cities springing up on our earth whose foundation and builder is God.
Hebrews 11, verse 10. Abraham was looking forward to the city with foundations whose architect and builder is God.
Foundations. Architect and builder is God.
NLT says to a city with eternal foundations.
Oh, wow.
I like that.
Okay. Eternal view, eternal perspective, right? Even in the building of a city, the beauty of God in building and constructing and blueprinting a city. So Abraham, he was way ahead of his time. So he went out from Mesopotamia, where he was living, where his parents were. God called him, and he didn't know where he was going. All he knew is he was looking for a city whose architect and builder and whose foundation had been laid by God all those years ago, way ahead of his time.
I think it's easy to read something like that and just keep it as like a Bible thing that's encouraging or neat, and not actually think, okay, now, is he not still building that way? It's applicable now. And so these words we're hearing now, some people are going to think they're crazy, just like people thought Abraham was crazy. But these guys, they had this vision, they saw it, and it's exciting to be in a time that's even closer and closer to the full revealing.
Yes, even in the building of a city, if God wants the entire earth to become the garden center of the universe, then the cities themselves need to be built as gardens, and they need to be blueprinted with their foundations and the value built in from the very lowest parts to the very top parts. That's the way heaven is. If we say, let it be on earth as it is in heaven, we have to include that aspect.
Yeah. I don't know anything about this, but I've just heard this word from people who are kind of naturalists. They call it grounding.
Right.
People are finding this calmness and peace just being on the earth. One time I was in our backyard and I was grounding. I wasn't really grounding. I was just picking weeds, but it was really hot. So I lay down. I just started getting really itchy. And then I looked and I was just covered in these tiny ants. There had been this so grounding. I didn't even know I was doing it before it was trendy. I was really grounding. Even nature was crawling all over me.
Ooh.
Okay. Moving on.
Moving on from the ants.
There is something threatening about art to the realm of darkness. Check this out. The Mirror translation, Colossians 2, verse 19. You are directly connected to Christ, who, like a choir conductor, draws out the music in everyone like a tapestry of art that intertwines in harmony to reveal the full stature of divine expression, which is Christ in you. Okay, this is very artistic language this translator used. Christ, who's like a choir conductor, drawing out the music in everyone like a tapestry of art that intertwines in harmony to reveal the full stature of divine expression.
I wonder if this person was an artist who wrote that.
Sounds like it, yeah.
So let's just go back to the city of heaven coming down onto earth.
Revelation 21. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband.
Right from the beginning, it was God's plan to release an artistic beauty over the entire earth. So whether it's a beautiful natural scene or whether it's a city scene, there's no difference between urban and rural in the artistic heart of God. He obviously knows how to make beautiful cities as much as he knows how to make beautiful mountains, beautiful meadows, and beautiful valleys, and beautiful streams, beautiful villages, beautiful communities.
Just harmony.
Harmony in every place. I'll share another heaven story because I've seen quite a few places in heaven, and one thing that I always notice is how in harmony everything is with the natural. And I've read a few books about people who have been there, and they always say the same thing, is that every house is set in a beautiful setting, as if it was made to be there. Every feature, every fountain, it's so in harmony with the natural that it looks like it was made for that spot. And it fits in so well to the natural landscape. So there's structure, but yet there's a harmony. One time I was on a hill, and I looked down and I saw a series of about 5 or 6 big mansions on a hillside. And in each one of them, they had a big sort of natural lake in the backyard. And these were like estates. But the views that they had looking over the valley and the way that they were set in their place amongst the natural features made them look like the most beautiful diamonds set in a ring. Just a beautiful artistic setting of the most exquisite kind, so that it looked like it was made for that spot right from the beginning. So the artistic harmony is very consistent in heaven, and God wants that for the earth as well. And I think that's why he's downloading these plans in people's hearts for cities whose foundation and builder is God and whose architect is God, because that's the way it was meant to be here. It was never meant to be driven by profit. It was meant to be led by art.
Well, and when you design and create from that heart, it's like this ripple effect of beauty. When you're designing and creating from the heart of profit and logistics and pride or whatever the reason is, it doesn't beautify itself and continue on beautifying. Let me read you this quote I came across this week.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Ray Hughes?
Yes.
Everything God ever created creates. That's why wind creates more wind, flowers make more flowers, grass makes more grass, fire makes more fire. Everything God ever created creates, including you. Anytime that you experience someone else's creativity, for example, when you experience their song, it awakens a song in you. And I think that about designing even cities. You don't even know when you're doing something for the kingdom and you're honoring God in it, whatever it is you're doing at home or at work, you don't even know who or what that's going to speak into and inspire.
Because the beauty draws you up. The beauty points your face upward and draws your heart towards the ultimate creator of beauty, God himself, right? Let's go up. That's the way God intended for it to be right from the beginning.
He didn't just create this world to be functional. He created it to be functional and gorgeous, beautiful, stunning, ever-changing. No matter how many mornings you wake up or evenings, the sunset and sunrises are always ever-changing. The beauty in it and the lighting. And he obviously values the creative side of it. We didn't need the array of creatures on this earth and plants that we have, but he wanted it. He wanted to be creative. He wanted it to be beautiful and sometimes hilarious.
I think that's what I enjoy about the ocean so much. It's always the same, but two waves are never the same. If you watch waves crashing up on a bunch of rocks, the water never runs up and down the same twice. It's just a constant dance of an infinite variety of shapes and movement that's never the same twice. And I think that's why we can watch something like that for so long, because in our mind, every time it's different. And so it feeds this vast, eternal hunger that we have for something that we know is multidimensional and will never end and will never be the same twice. And it's kind of telling how we as humans, when we move towards religion, the first thing that we do is we shut down the creativity, we shut down the infinity, and we default to doing the same thing exactly the same way every time. We go back to tradition where we default to the same. And then if we break from that, you'd think the end of the world had come because we put up such a noise about it. But the God who created no two waves the same, or two snowflakes the same, or two flowers the same, he's all about infinite amount of variety. Never the same twice. Yeah, the heart of God is for infinity. I heard somebody say the other day that infinity is the creative womb of eternity. Does that make sense at all? Okay.
Wisdom? Hello? You there? Spirit of wisdom? Is this making sense? It sounds cool.
It sounds super cool. Should I give credit where credit is due? I believe it was Fiorella Giordani that said that. So eternity expresses its creativity through infinity. Infinite number of dimensions, infinite number of stars. Eternity expresses its creativity through infinity.
Wow.
Okay, it's making more sense to me now.
The more you say it, your brain's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Cool. Got that.
Okay, Karitas, I think we can actually leave it there. You know what? This is going to be a two-parter because we still have a lot of stuff to talk about here.
We were going to talk about craftsmen, weren't we?
We were.
So
but that didn't happen.
Didn't happen. There's something about craftsmanship, artistry that we're just kind of touching on, but we have to leave it. What did we even say?
I have no idea what we even said today.
Some artsy-fartsy stuff.
It was great, though.
It was great. You know what we said?
What did we say?
In a nutshell, we were just normalizing creative expression in our life, everyone's life. Our Father is a creator. We are born in his image, of his seed, in his likeness. So just like our nature now lines up to his nature, our creativity and our expression lines up to his. He's creative, so we're creative. Even if no one's ever called you creative or encouraged the creativity in you, even if your whole life you've been speaking the opposite over yourself, I'm not creative, I'm not artistic, it's actually not true. It's in us. It's in all of us because we've been born again into his likeness, and he is the ultimate creator.
Yes. Don't ever look at yourself and say, I'm not creative again, because you are. You are creative in your own way. God has put creative inside of you because he is creative, and because he lives in you, he's in you and you're in him. So you are creative. Don't let anybody define it for you.
Yeah.
Just because you can't paint a picture, write a song, doesn't mean that you couldn't do what you're doing in the most creative and beautiful and holy way with the wisdom of God.
Yeah.
Right by your side, just like it was with the Father in the beginning when he created the world.
Yeah.
I think we just figured it out.
We just put it in that little nutshell. And now
There we
we're
go.
in there.
So thanks for joining us, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed this conversation as much as we have.
Embrace the creativity within.
That's right. Have an awesome week, everyone. Bye.